Hello, hello, hello. This is William Rochelle, but you can call me Bill at UBU Live, and my special guest, Coach Wayne of VIP Transformative Living.
Hey,
Wayne, thanks for coming.
you're welcome. Thanks for
Uh,
having me, Bill.
of course, anytime. Um, Wayne and I met maybe a year ago, Wayne, in person. We were network friends over LinkedIn, and then I was looking for a job, and I think Wayne, you were looking at the time, and you spoke life into my existence when I needed it. I even think I wrote a post about gratitude. You said that you and your wife wake up every morning, and before you get out of bed, you go over what you guys are grateful for. That stuck with me, and no one really recognizes sometimes the impact that small moments have on other people's lives. So I am excited to have you join the show. And from there, I will let you kind of talk about what you're doing right now.
Sure. Thanks, Bill. And it was maybe a year ago we had been following each other. I certainly was following you because you're prolific in terms of your newsletters, and I was like, wow. And then I reached out and said, "Hey, let's connect. We'll do brunch." And I met you downtown Fort Lauderdale. We grabbed lunch.
Downtown Hollywood.
Hollywood,
Yes, yes.
and
And I was embarrassed because it was a terrible vegan experience. That was good to me at one point, but the day you and I went, it wasn't that good. Go
yeah,
ahead. Sorry.
it's all good. It's all good. I actually wasn't looking for work. I fired corporate America about 4 years ago and burned all the ships on the beach. So there's no returning, no turning back. But I have the blessing and the fortune of having a wonderful, supportive wife. So, when you start a business as an entrepreneur, it typically, like a baby, has to crawl, has its diaper change and be fed on time and all that before it starts standing on its own. And so, when we went through my savings and just kept going, my wife was there. She stood by. So kudos to you, Dr. Audrey Dawson. And, Bill, we talked about gratitude that day because a lot of us wake up every morning and we start off our day with what's not happening for us. And we get into this, uh, poor old me, the victimization chant, as it were. And one of the things, the first thing that we do when we get up, we open the blinds that leads out to a patio that opens up to water. We're in Miami. We're in not Miami, but we're in Florida. There's water everywhere. So we have a lake outside, a man-made lake, and we hear the birds. And I have a patio that has garden and stuff on it. And it's just beautiful when the sun filters in on the bed and we wake up, and it feels great to just know that we're on the right side of the soil when we get up. So we start off like that. And Bill, uh, for the last how many years, I've been an advocate for the upliftment of Black families. Started with youth work in New York, in Harlem, leading one of the country's oldest non-for-profit youth centers, overseeing 4 locations in Harlem, and spent nearly 2 decades doing that work, and was also involved with the Boys and Girls Club, setting up youth programs nationally for them. I'm a regular speaker on that platform, advocating for youth. And then we'll talk about it, but some serious life changes happened in my life, and that got me here to Florida. And coming to Florida, I got out of non-for-profit, Bill, and went into corporate, worked for Corporate 30, as a matter of fact, as one of their leaders in their learning and development team. And, did a lot of work there, but there was an emptiness, wanted more. So we'll talk about that.
Awesome. Awesome. You know, what you just described, uh, and I don't know if it's crying in your soup, but I've had those moments, where the opposite, where I don't open the blinds and I keep everything shut out and it's dark in the house and I'm not crying in my soup, but the home is not open. and it's not open to receive if everything is shut down. One of the things that I recently started doing, because you could tell depression, even if someone's not speaking it, you know, I had to clean up my house because my and I have a beautiful home. I live by the beach. Um, but the house represented something that I wasn't acting as if I was grateful for. You know, if you're stepping over a box and it's only you and two dogs living in the house, who is going to take that box and put it outside? So eventually you're living without gratitude, even though you're saying you're grateful. So gratitude takes more than just a statement. It takes effort and it takes action, opening the blinds, appreciating the scenery around you, speaking affirmations every morning before you get out of bed to reaffirm what you are grateful for. And sometimes it's not material. Sometimes it's your children, it's your family, it's your wife. Um, it's the bird that you hear, you know. And that day that you and I spoke, I remember that I started walk my dogs every morning, but I started walking my dogs and I was paying attention. I was paying attention to the birds that were chirping. I was paying attention to the peacock that lives across the street that I never really recognized. I was paying attention to, I don't know if you've ever done this, how when there's a gentle breeze in Florida, not when it's hot, but a gentle kind of sea breeze, how the trees kind of dance in the wind. Um, and all of that's magical, all of it. And once you have a heart filled with gratitude, you're able to attract more abundance into your life. Now, I do have a question for you. That was a statement. I do have a question for you. When you say you burned all the boats, what exactly does that mean, or can you talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. So for the longest while, I've had a vision, and the vision had always been around serving men of color and the women who love them. Because as a Black man, that is my experience. I can speak to what I've had to deal with in terms of the struggles, as it were, being born Black and living in a country where that shows up oftentimes when you open the door before everything else. And so working for so many years, and I'm from the Caribbean, I'm from Jamaica. In Jamaica, the majority, so let me just take you there. In Jamaica, the majority of folks that you're going to see, the people running the country, the people flying the planes, the people they look like me. And so we're accustomed to feeling like first class citizen, well received, so to speak. And then when I got to the United States at a tender age, tender enough in my early 20s, I realized that it was a whole new setting. And I had to look at identity in a different way. Not that I ever forgot that I was Black, but I was reminded daily that that could have been an issue. And so I decided that because some of the folks that I had spent a lot of time around in college and in my early career struggled because they had that false narrative about them not being good enough to overcome, among some other things. I decided that one day, initially it was called Change Institute. I sat with my good friend Sean Dove at Amy Ruth in Harlem on 116th Street about 25 years ago. And on a napkin, a proverbial napkin, we wrote
That's
down what
that's
our,
how ideas are started, right?
yeah, we wrote down our vision. And at the time it was Change Institute. And I talked about doing the podcast and doing the book and doing stage stuff and just all of this. And it took a while, 2 decades later, before I came up with the idea that if I was working for corporate and earning really good money, and I could do this for myself. I could do this for myself with a greater sense of fulfillment and have joy. And as I climbed even in corporate, I realized that there was something missing. You know, I've played the rules by the game. I went to school, I studied, I did the exams, I worked my way up. I was in leadership in both non-for-profit and corporate. And I had had a business years ago as a young man coming out of Jamaica, traveling the Caribbean, setting up all-inclusive resorts in the late 80s. And so I had a taste of entrepreneurism. And what I knew was that nothing replaced the joy and the fulfillment when I called, as it were, my own shot. And I decided that when I stepped out of corporate this time, there was no turning back. And so as Cortez did, I looked back, set alight all of the ships that were anchored on the port, and decided I was only moving one direction, and that would be forward.
So did you burn bridges, or did you just say, I'm not looking back? There's a difference.
No, I didn't burn bridges, not at all. I didn't build walls, I didn't burn bridges, but I decided that there was no retreat, because as an entrepreneur, there are many days that you get up, it's a lonely trek oftentimes.
My God,
and you know, you're beaten down. You fall more often than you would imagine. Certainly you don't have the W-2. You don't have every 2 weeks or so a paycheck coming. And if you're not, when everybody else is at the beach chilling, you got to be in front of your computer or out there prospecting, do what you do. Because if you don't do that, you're not earning an income. You're not building. And so I decided that there was just no other direction to go but forward and up. And so that was it.
So, God, every time I talk to you, you come up with such knowledge that takes me into another direction. Growing up in the Caribbean, I'm going to go backwards. Okay, so the Black American has a different experience than the people that come from Africa or from the Caribbean, because you were raised in an environment where your leaders were Black, your doctors were Black, your attorneys were Black, and that's here as well. However, when you turn on the news, that's not who they portray us as being. And so I believe there's always, and you can correct me on this, there's been a conflict, I believe, with the people that were born in America and then those that came from other countries and intentionally came to America, as far as how they perceive the Black experience.
Okay.
Is that correct?
So I want to be very sure. I want to be very delicate with this, because I oftentimes tell folks that though we are in different spaces, the Caribbean, the motherland, the continental Africa, and North America, we were traveling, as it were, in different ships, but we're all now in the same boat.
Okay.
Meaning, no matter where in the world you go, even in Jamaica, and I tell Jamaicans this all the time, there's a sense of security that we have, knowing that the cop who pulls you over is Black to an extent. But people are people, behavior is behavior. And so you could have a corrupted cop that will bust you upside the head, as you would here in North America if a white cop pulls you over just because of his racism. I think one of the differences that we deal with is here, you almost don't feel welcome in your own yard. Now, in the Caribbean, and I tell a lot of Caribbean people this, they say it's about classism, it's not about racism. And I challenge folks to say, oh yeah, follow the money, and you'll see that historically, the money goes also to the non-Black Jamaicans, the old vestiges of the colonial masters and people who came in seeking opportunities elsewhere and sort of dominate. At one point, growing up in Jamaica, they used to say there are 7 Jamaican families that run Jamaica. Well, when you looked at those families, they didn't look like me, but they were Jamaicans. And so to be very brutally honest, Black folks everywhere have got to fight against a system that has smeared their identity as far as being whole. You know, I call it, we suffer from what I call all across the poor syndrome, PAW. And that is, we have lost a sense of possibility. It's learned, you know, I call it poor syndrome, possibility, ability, and worthiness or worthlessness. And the first one, possibility, is a sense of hopelessness. We don't believe things are truly happening and it's going to happen for us. There's a sense of hopelessness, learned hopelessness. And then the A is ability. It's a sense of, oh, we can't do it. We can't get into those rooms, oftentimes because we have learned helplessness. And thirdly is the idea of worth, which impacts and inflicts most brothers and sisters that I know. And that is a sense of, I'm not good enough, worthlessness. Now, we typically don't walk around and say, I'm no good and I'm not, worthy. But there's a narrative that is afoot, that is part of the environment under which we live, wherever we are, based on the system of racism built into most of the systems we go to, the religious systems, the educational system, the social system, the economic systems. And because of those systems, this narrative, somehow we wind up falling into this as a trap. And generationally, we see the behaviors repeating ourselves that lets us fall into this sense of hopelessness, helplessness, and worthlessness.
Got it. So even within our own community, I had a conversation with someone I refuse to name, but we're related, and she does very, very well for herself. And her claim is, there are certain people that don't want to do better than where they're at. And I find that once we're out of it, once we've succeeded, we aren't always like you, willing to take a hand and pull the next person up. We're more apt to say, I made it, so why can't they? But if we don't have representation, if we don't have someone like you as a coach to go back and say, hey guys, you're more than where you're at, and let me kind of help you understand that, then the community gets lost. There's been a continued perspective that, first of all, I believe in desegregation. I don't believe in segregation, but there's a theory that once segregation did happen, or desegregation happened, the affluent Black people that were the beacons of the community moved out, which left the ones that couldn't get out there, and it gave them very few people to look up to. Do you understand that?
So, in a way, oftentimes I hear my white counterparts speaking as to the situation that people of color are caught in America, almost as in the same tone or breath as you talk to a rape victim, in terms of double victimizing the rape victim. Oh, she dressed sexy, and so she earned it or deserved it. And so
Wow.
when we say that Black folks are responsible, yes, we believe in paying it forward and each one teaching one and lifting. But racism is about power and powerlessness. And so we can be discriminative, but the whole idea behind race is allowing one group of people, right, to disenfranchise another because they are in a position to empower themselves based on the barrier of race. So Black folks are not in a position to exude racism because we don't have the power. We don't run the organizations. We don't set the systems, right? And so we are, as it were, victims to that. Now, I would say the thinking in terms of how I work with the clients and people in my circle is not to accept that we have no way out. The answer is hope. The answer is having a clear vision and steps and strategizing and believing in yourself and believing in the Most High, right?
Right.
Because that, I think, is where we anchor and hold our hat. We must know that there's something, someone greater than us, right? In our community, we refer to that as God, right? Or Allah in some places. Whatever it is,
Whoever you believe in,
yeah. The
right?
point is, yes, of course. And the point is, when folks say that Black folks have moved out, let's be honest. When it comes to change, the easiest place of it's Dill's pyramid in neurolinguistic programming. He has this structure, and it starts off with at the bottom of the pyramid. The first level of change is the environment.
Right.
So if you're seeking to change a behavior, you firstly change the environment, which means you can change the time of day that you do the thing or the place. So yes, people will move out because if you're in a community where it's toxic and the negative issues makes it difficult to cross a street without getting run over, you want to be in a place where you clearly can reach back and help rather than be, stuck in the mud, so to speak. So there's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of what's not being said in terms of the narrative is that Black folks move out, but oftentimes they do pay forward and they reach back and help to build communities. See, there's a narrative that we are not being told, and so in many cases, the narrative is so flawed and false that you think Black men don't show up for their families. Black men are criminals. And we talk about Black and Black crime. Well, in a white community, the crime is not perpetrated by Black folks coming in. It's white and white crime. In
Right.
the Asian
But
community,
but
it's
but
Asian
but
and
they
Asian crime.
but they don't talk about that,
We
right?
don't say that,
Right.
right? And so there is that boogeyman, that fear that's being driven by the man of color in terms of these stories. And so what we're saying is, it's we would appreciate allies. Being silent, being is complicity, and that's being a part of the problem. You're either part of the solution or the problem. So
Absolutely.
my counterparts, my white counterparts, I say, if you really want to help, you have to step up. You have access to the CEO. You need to go in and say and protest and say, hey, how you're treating these fellas and your hiring practice is just not right. You have access. So we don't have that access. We're last hired, first fired. And so a lot of times we tippy toe, but that's part of the conflation in terms of the stories and the way that it's being told.
Okay. Before I move forward, are we going in the direction that you're comfortable with?
Absolutely, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. All
Absolutely.
right. All right. All right. Because I really want to get back
Thanks for
more
asking.
into the VIP transformative
Sure.
portion of the conversation.
Sure.
But we're talking about the narrative and why is it so important that a program like yours exists to me. And
Yes.
that is because of the narrative. That is because whenever, they're talking from a political standpoint, they're saying that we're in need. We're not the biggest recipients of welfare. We're not the biggest in the prison system. We're just not. And no matter where we go, we could be president of the United States and we get no recognition for that. But the person that robbed a grocery store, I don't know about you, but the first thing I say is, I hope he's not Black. Whenever they're doing it on the news, and it's only because that's how they like to sensationalize us. And I can also say this, and folks, I want you to hear this very clearly. The difference between how things are reported in the news. A 15-year-old Black kid will be considered a thug and will be tried as an adult, where a 24-year-old white man that shoots up a Black Lives Matter platform will be called a kid, a young man. And what that's doing is it's making a 15-year-old child that just got killed a grown man who intentionally was going to go in and do harm versus a young white kid that got released from prison, was not found guilty, that drove across state lines with an AK-47 to a Black Lives Matters protest and then said he felt scared, so he shot everybody up. And that guy is a kid. And that's the narrative that we're dealing with. This is why things like VIP Transformative Living are important, because we need to hear that we're better than this. We need to hear the truth about where we come from. This is why things like Black Lives Matter are important, because there is a feeling that our lives don't matter. And I can tell you guys this. And I'm gonna say two more things, and then I'm gonna be back to Wayne. Um, every father has a conversation with their son when they turn 12 or 13, every Black father, that says, respect the police. If you're ever pulled over, keep your hands on 10 and 2. Don't reach for anything, and be respectful. I will also say that there's a difference. Wayne and I are both Black Americans, or Jamaican Black. There's a difference between the way Wayne would be treated and the way that I would be treated. And I recognize that, because people often don't know what I am, right? And even within the community, there's a difference between, and this dates back to our origins in America, a difference between how the affluent act versus the ones that are blue collar workers. At times, they kind of separate each other. So that's my 2 cents. And now I'm going to put myself on mute and listen to Wayne go through his coaching session.
Well, the first thing is, when you hear the news, you know immediately if it's Black. If a color comes up, it's gonna be Black, right? If you hear no color, you know it's not a Black person. If there's no color, a man kills someone, shot up a school, you know it's not a Black person you're looking for, right? You're gonna hear it's a Black man if they're pointing fingers to make sure. See, let's go back to slavery. We're looking at several centuries ago, and I want to jump into VIP, but since you took it there with me, I think you're giving me permission to speak to it. Thank you, Bill. Let's go back to slavery. When the Portuguese and the Spanish were financing, as it were, or funding their territory, and they were looking for the machinery, which was hands and bodies, to get this work done, because they couldn't do it on their own. They came to Africa, and they kind of just divided Africa, as the Europeans did in the 1800s at the Berlin conference. They divided Africa, and they said, hey, you take these and I take this part. Well, at the time, there was a pope, right, who gave his blessings, saying, because the rest of the world was saying, hey, this doesn't look right, and they were afraid to do that. So the insurance was, this pope gave them blessing to say, but these are not true people. They don't have a soul. And because they don't have a soul, it was okay to enslave them and deal with the kind of slavery that eventually happened with Europe. The inhumane removal of the human identity. I mean, in the Constitution, even in the United States, we show up as 3/5 of a man. It just goes to show. And so all along, there has been a narrative that white folks have created, a story, his story, that's not true. It's fake. Talk about fake news. The entire history of Europeans and of America is built on fallacy and falsehood. But they have done that to make themselves a greater people than those folks that they have oppressed and suppressed all these centuries. If you told the truth will set you free, but it would also make you realize the follies of your ways and how you have leveraged an entire race of people to get on their backs so that you could be in the position that you are today. And that's still happening today, you know? So VIP Transformative Living, the work I do, is based around helping people, and this is my belief, to reconnect with their, I like to say, reimagine their purpose, restore their values, and redefine their identity. It helps people to re-examine their core values. As a traditional people, we have strong, our ancestors had really strong values around family, values around discipline, values around our sense of spirituality and God and relationship with nature. And we believed in the essence of communication, collaboration, communal living. We borrowed living in America and in Europe, in the Western world, what one of my coaches back in college, Dr. Len Jeffries, talked about the 3 Ds: death, domination, and destruction. That is the way of the European, finding it very difficult to live alongside in harmony with indigenous people and even with the land. Always about conquering, conflict, and conquest. And so I help people to re-examine values, to get to your core values, which is a spiritual thing. I help people also to deal with identity. Now, see, transformation happens, true transformation. We talked about environment earlier. That's transient changes, right? It doesn't have to be permanent, because you could move back tomorrow or the weather could change. But true transformation starts taking place when you change your I am, your sense of self, your sense of being, who you are. And that is a lot of work, but you have to then start, as it were, if you want to be successful and rich, you have to project, look forward, and become that man or woman before it happens. You have to take on that persona, create those habits, have that new thinking before it happens. I run the
Preach,
joke.
my man.
I run the joke all the time, and I say, you know, most time people who win the lotto, if you're poor, and most of the folks that have been winning the lotto aren't necessarily born with a golden spoon, within 3 to 5 years, they're declaring that they're broke again. Why?
Yeah.
Because no one trained them to be a millionaire before they got the money. So you have to be in that space. So identity is important. And then I like to think that when folks are in alignment, their values and belief system with their identity, your purpose finds you. Let me say that again. A lot of time we spend our life looking for purpose. It's never going to happen that you go out and, as it were, find purpose. Your purpose is a divine assignment. You were born with a purpose, and only you can fulfill your purpose. And so it resonates within you. It's always there. But the fact of the matter, we are so distracted and looking at shiny objects that we don't stay quiet enough to be obedient and listen to the whisper of the divine. Your purpose is calling you and waiting for you to jump out once it knocks.
Kenneth Dunner, see, I don't have to talk. This man is giving us divine inspiration. This is why Wayne is on the program. This is how I felt when I had lunch with you. You know, I felt like a new person. You are phenomenal. And we're only like a portion through. I am. And that's a spiritual biblical quote. You know, the great I am is God, but he resides, in my opinion, within you. So when you are saying I am, not only are you paying homage to God or the universe or whoever you are also saying and committing that you are divine and that you are a divine spiritual being, and that I am worthy of whatever God has put into me. I am a beacon of light. I am someone that others can rely on. I am a good father. I am, like, everything about that is significant. And when you call on that, I believe what you're doing is you're attracting the divine back into your spirit. And you're saying that I am means now. in the moment. Not I will be, I am. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, you must claim it. The God you serve is a living and present God. And so if we're saying that we communicate and commune with God, you know, so the Bible, let's use that, because perhaps the majority of the folks here in North America are Christians, if we were to choose a religion. But there's all the teachings that says man was made in the image of the Most High. And therefore, we have to recognize that by claiming and owning the position of godliness, we can do greater than, is what Jesus said, right? Those
Yep.
who come after. So the idea is we have not limits on us. We have to think in terms of abundance. And one of the things that happens in a community such as this, where we've been oppressed and for 4.5 or 500 years, oppressed, is that we have lost the thinking and the ability and the believability to know that we are a people of greatness. Now, we talk about oftentimes, you know, you'll see a man getting locked up and they say, oh yeah, he's from a family's generational poverty and recklessness and drugs. But if generational, if the DNA is carried in generations, so why aren't we giving credence and heralding the fact that also, as part of the African history, is a line of greatness, lineage of kings and buildings beyond? Don't we have those genes in us too? Don't we have that piece of the generation? So is it not a decision to choose, if we're aware and conscious, which one we want to hold and make our I am? We weren't all slaves when we got here, right? We had been, you know, there was 700 years of occupation, or as it were, we'll call it that, in Europe, when Europeans weren't even reading and writing. It was called the Dark Age. It was the Moors, Africans, Black Africans, who ruled and governed and taught civilization to Spain. So if we are able to have that legacy, we have to remind our folks. And as the word says, remember, which is to rejoin, become part of the membership, right, of the past. We have to remember that part of the past and hold it dearly. When we talk about I am, so here's a construct I want to share with the audience. First thing in terms of transformation is our beliefs and values. Your beliefs and values will shape your thoughts and your words. Your thoughts and words then shape your actions. Your actions done repeatedly becomes your habit, become your habits. Your habits become your, or give results to your personal reality or outcome. Your personal reality is your personality. So show me what you do and how you think, and I'll show you who you are. So we start with our belief system. So if you know, I help folks to change the limited belief that I am not possible, that I am not capable, and that I'm not enough. And it's with a lot of work, because there is in fact trauma. But once we can move past the trauma, and there are skill sets in terms of the work I do to help people move through that. And of course, there's some levels that are so deep that they have to move on to someone like my wife, who is a psychotherapist, a licensed psychotherapist. Sometimes, you know, it works together. They need that. But coaching helps people to see the blind spots, gives you a 360 degree of what's going on, and allows you to pull from within. The thing about good coaching, Bill, is, you know, you learn the skill set of asking powerful questions that raise possible possibilities. And once you allow people to look at themselves, they'll realize that they are in fact capable.
That again, you are speaking truth to power. You were talking about kings and queens versus we weren't always slaves. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I also know that through our DNA, I don't know. I believe that through our DNA, we carry things within our souls from the past. And some of that was beaten out of us. Some of it was what we're hearing and what we're listening to. And one of the things it's in movies, it's in everything. Remember who you are. And you just made that quote, and it reminded me of something that occurred to me in 2010, 2011, when the market crashed. I was talking to a recruiter, and she was looking at my resume, and she said, "Your problem," which I didn't think I had a problem, "is that you've forgotten who you are. You've forgotten that because life with the downturn and everything else has drained you of that remembrance." And in that short moment, I was like, what does she mean, who I am? Because she was reading the paper and I was stuttering and I was looking down, and that pride and that resilience and that confidence was no longer there. I had to remember who I was. Um, so as we speak about the kings and the queens that we come from, we have to remind people, not just through speech, but remind them, have them tap into that source within them that can remember who they are. Does that
Of
make
course.
sense?
And of course, not everybody came from a king or a queen, all right?
I
But
did.
neither that's right. But neither did everybody come from a derelict and someone that has a life that's given to crime. And so the narrative that the media presents, if you watch the 6 o'clock news, who do you see getting their head bowed down and pushed into the cars for crimes? The majority of what you're seeing is the folks who represent 14% of the population here, right? And so that is a crafted narrative. And what happens when you let people, what we're seeing happening right now is unprecedented for us that's living here, but it's not in terms of worldwide stage. We've seen this before. I mean, you even go to Colombia. A lot of my friends like Colombia. Oh, I want to live in Colombia, but Colombia have a history where they had a whitewash in Colombia, strategic system similar to what's happening in this country, where immigration rules really allowed for white Europeans to rush into Colombia at the same time trying to move the blacks into Cartagena and other places where they were restricted to move around and even to breed outside because they were. So what you're seeing, in this part of the world, the Portuguese and the Spanish, Brazil and these places, Brazil has the highest concentration of blacks that came out of slavery in terms of settlement. You would never imagine so if you saw the commercials or spoke to a Brazilian here in Miami.
Right. Right.
So we have to get real and understand that we have to start telling our story. And part of that agenda that we see right now, where the South American whites are allowed to come in quickly because they are being exterminated.
South American or South African?
South African, I beg your pardon. Thanks for correction. Yeah. South African, where everybody else's visa has been stalled, right? Where we're seeing our South American brothers and sisters, our brothers from Central America, right? All our Hispanic, Latino brothers and sisters being told that you fit the picture, the bill, and so you are a man of crime, and we're seeing people being sent out. This is not new. We have seen this before, and I don't want to get into there, but there's an issue that takes us to the whole idea, my thinking is, around even the abortion issue. I would just say this.
Go into the abortion issue. Don't leave us hanging. Go into it.
The birth rate of Europeans, whites, is at an all-time low. There are not
Okay.
enough whites being born to supplant or replace those that are dying. And so that's a crisis. Left to itself, white folks won't have that white purity after a while because they just won't. Let's look at Africa. Africa has 60% of its population as youth. So given just those continents, just given that those demographics, within a few generations, the idea of pure white lives is gone. How do you protect that? By any means necessary.
But at the same time, you know, the abortion piece, which as a man, I don't think I have the right to tell any woman what to do with their body. So
Absolutely.
so that's what I'm going to say. I don't have a position on it because unfortunately in America, the man can walk away.
Absolutely.
You know, it's rare that a woman gets to walk away. And then if she does, the narrative of that is she's a horrible person. If you know, there's a single father, but the single mother is expected to get education, work, no help with childcare. So I can't tell someone else what to do.
Absolutely. No, I'm not advocating for it either. I'm just saying that these are the rules and the laws, and the people who set these are those that are in the echelons of the rich white men.
Yeah, but
right?
Have you heard? I'm sure you have. Have you heard about the have you heard about now it's the life of the child, not the life of the mother, that is protected? So a woman could be dying, and before, okay, let me go back. As a man, you go in and you say that you're sick and you're having a heart attack. They're going to treat you immediately. In some states, if a woman does the same thing, they're going to check to see if she's pregnant first. And if she's pregnant, then they'll decide what they're going to do. So in those moments of life-saving care, the woman is less likely to get the same help that you would.
Mhm.
With that said, if she is pregnant, and this is happening right now, they will put that woman on life support to incubate the baby. And the woman's brain dead.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're doing right now is using the body to produce children. It's almost like The Handmaid's Tale in a way.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem it honestly, it seems like we're in a bad movie.
It is. But you know, even movies have intent, right? So when you look at a movie, people will say, "Oh, it's just a movie," but there's an intention in terms of what they want to get across. The laws are stipulated and formed because there's an intention. And I am a man that I was blessed to grow up with a very nurturing, loving mother and father. So that's my superpower. I don't have the story to tell about not having that. That is
Right.
my superpower. And I have two wonderful sisters who model womanhood at the highest level. My current wife and my daughters and women in my circle, period, are all about that power. I have the highest reverence for women. And so I'm not in a position to even get in a conversation, as shouldn't these guys in Congress or these guys that run Tesla. Oops, I'm sorry. Did I say that? I am not in a position to make those decisions, right?
Right.
And shouldn't. But all I'm teasing is that there is an intent behind these decisions. And let me just say this, folks, just like people will say that DEI is about leveraging Black folks, and we really were not the most that benefited from it. It's the same thing when they talk about pregnancy and abortions. I'll let you in on a secret. A lot of white women, Black women, either don't have the insurance or can't afford to have it. So they're going to have the baby. They're going to have the baby. So who are the majority of folks using it? And I'll just leave that alone.
Do you want to take questions from the audience?
Oh, I'm happy to.
Does anyone want to come up on stage and join us? I can send you a link. So Curtis Brooks made a statement. Is the woman not accountable for her decision? So Curtis, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you mean is the decision to do what she wants with her body her own, or are you saying that if a woman lies with a man and becomes pregnant, he should be held accountable? Because it can go either way. So I'd like clarification on that statement. And if anyone wants to come up, just put it in the comments and I'll get you on stage. And then Joe, when you say it sounds like a generalization, did you want to expand on that? And would you like to come up on stage and talk about your opinion? Because I want to make sure that this is UBU Live, so it is, you can say whatever you want to say as long as it's done respectfully. And I'd love to hear your view more full-throatedly, and we'll answer any questions that you have, and we can learn something from you. So just send me a message and we'll get you up on stage right away. So did you want to take on this question? Curtis didn't respond to my shout out, but how do you interpret the question? And then we'll try to get clarity from him.
I'm trying to understand what the decision is. Is the decision to get pregnant, the decision to have an abortion? What's the decision?
Got it. Yeah, that was my question as well. All right, Joe, I'm going to get you a link right now. Can you hold on for just a second? Or you can actually continue talking while I get Joanne the link.
Yeah, I would want Curtis to sort of break that down to be clear for me. But what does it mean, Curtis? Woman lying with a man, so too does the man. Doesn't he make a decision in terms of, she doesn't lie by herself? So I'm still not sure what you're asking a question, but I'm not sure what the position is that you're trying to bear out, my brother. Curtis is my brother.
Oh, you know him?
Yeah, I know him well.
Okay. All right, Joe, I just sent you a link to get on stage. Hopefully she doesn't rip us apart, Wayne. But let's figure it out. You know, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but Curtis, what about the man? So that's where I have the problem, because the man can walk away and leave the woman with the child. So it's a two-part theory. Fortunately enough, I think I'm a fantastic father. All my cousins seem to be fantastic fathers. My brother's a great father. Right now, we are going through an entire resurgence of becoming great representation of fatherhood in our community in America. But in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, the single mother basically was common. And, you know, oftentimes a mother needs to go through the courts to even get child support. So why is it the woman's fault that she became pregnant, Curtis? I'd love to hear your answer. And Joe, I sent it to your LinkedIn email address. So if you go to LinkedIn, you should have an invite from me.
I see another good brother, Joel.
Huh?
Joel Dudley. My wife is on. Beautiful.
Your wife is on?
Yeah, I saw her earlier. she's playing cards with her sister, so she's probably focused on winning a hand right now.
Got it. So we're just waiting for Joe to jump in. How much
Yeah,
time do you have?
Joe, we would love to hear you. I wanna be clear that I'm not here throwing mud at
Darts?
anyone. Yeah, I don't come from that school of
I
thought.
don't think that's how you're coming across.
Yeah.
But let's just wait. So how often do you have coaching sessions? Are they mostly individual?
Yeah, we're moving towards doing some group stuff. Um,
Oh, is that your wife, Audrey Dawson?
yeah, that's OJ. Yeah.
Hey, Audrey. Do you want to come on and talk about what a wonderful husband you have?
Joel, a good brother.
Yeah,
Happy Sunday, everybody.
it's been a great day. Um, don't know what's going on with Joe. I'm still waiting for her to connect.
She says she got it.
Yep.
So,
Go ahead. I'll let
so
you go.
I just I believe that when we look at us as a people, it's easy to pick us apart with differences, because that is the way that you empower those who lead. If folks recognize that there is more power when we find our common elements and we're able to come together, then those that we turn to for leadership and guidance feel a sense and will lose that awesomeness in terms of the power they have. And so we have to start recognizing that we share more in common as a people, whether it's, you're from the South, the West, you're dark, you're light, you speak a different language. And once we start understanding that and my wife tells me every day, come from a position of love. That is the mantra.
I love the way that you really keep bringing your wife into the picture and talking about how you guys support each other. And what's excellent about that is it's an admission that no one does it alone. No one does it alone. And everyone out there, I believe, needs some type of support system. And your wife seems like she is a very strong support system for you. You said she is a therapist?
Yeah, she's a psychologist, and
So I'm going to stop
she's
talking
great.
because
She's great at it.
I don't want to be psychoanalyzed. I'm dealing with my own drama. I'm not saying it's the woman's fault. I'm just saying she too can make a decision to use some kind of protection to prevent the pregnancy. Yeah, but Curtis, you and I are going to just agree to say okay, because the man can put on a condom too. Why does the woman always have to have contraception? Why is it the woman's responsibility that she gets pregnant? There are things hormonally that happen with contraception for women that some women's bodies can't take it. There's a whole host of things. So, why can't the guy get a vasectomy? And what's excellent about that, Joe, you might want to mute yourself. Hey, I remember you.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Thanks for jumping on.
Very much. Whoa, I don't know why am I so like close up? All right, I'm gonna like back it up here. No, I just am so glad that I kind of stumbled upon your room, and I think it's really informative and relevant to my life too. And I am part Mexican, and so I have part of my family that is pretty nervous at the moment, and there is a lot of similarities in some sorts of racism that happen in my family and happen to me in the court system, saying that I was basically an unfit mother, that My ex-husband was white and made a lot of money and got a great law firm, and I represented myself, and he didn't want to pay child support to me, so they were able to take my kids away from me, and everyone is devastated. And I'm devastated. It's all I ever wanted to do was be a mother. And I am. I am a really good mother. And so it's up to his whim, like when I get to see my children. So, yesterday I took him to the farmer's market, and we went on a hike through a nature trail, and they spent the night at my house, and I don't know when I get to see them next. And it was all because I was sexually accosted. I probably 2 years ago now, and he used that saying I was unstable. And so yeah, I didn't have the money to fight. I didn't have it. Like I have gone through every drop of savings. Like I've gone down to $100 in my bank account just to try. Like I'm on Snap. I mean, like it's exhausting. So I would like for you guys to be I don't know, maybe question the fact that right now, like some of the wealthy are uh, taking advantage of some of the impoverished, even though I have a graduate degree. I'm smart, I'm fun, I look white, but no, I'm not. But it is true that wealth affords you so many more privileges, and it's exhausting. It's fucking exhausting, and I am a good mom, and I want my children back, and I don't have a good lawyer to fight for it. So that's what I wanted to come say. And God, I'm still doing it. I still like have a smile on my face. I still have my garden outside and my dogs downstairs, and I'm doing it. And so I'm not, at the point where like life is a full wreck. I still talk to my kids every day. I love them. And so if anyone out there is listening who has been through just like a shit struggle, you can still do it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
still smile sometimes.
I'm gonna leave this one with Wayne. He is
I'll be
more the coach. Um, Wayne, would you like to respond?
First, I want to say that you're enough and you are to be celebrated, and thank God that you find peace and joy in your garden and with your kids. You have so much to be grateful for. Every morning when you get up, you have you're first of all, you were selected. You are a special being. The Most High chose your womb to bring to life your children. How many children do you have? 3 children. So that's a gift. That's a special gift. And you have all that to be cheerful and live about. Now, it is true that we have a court system that he who pays the highest price oftentimes gets the best judgment. It's just the way it is. And it's not so there is justice and there's just us. And one group of folks wind up oftentimes not being in the space where they can necessarily afford the top tier lawyers. And so they don't get necessarily top tier defense all the time. Right. But you got to keep going, keep fighting. I would say that do you believe in something greater than yourself? If you believe in God, or I would say connect and pray a lot and believe a lot. And not only pray and believe, but take action. And the action you're going to take is continue to grow and to learn and to improve yourself. Don't allow what's happening on the other side, because that's an extra victory for your ex. if you are falling by the wayside, you need to be strong. You need to be powerful. You need to show up your fullest self.
Yeah.
And I would say if you can find a group, a support group with folks who believe in you, with folks who are not naysayers, but positive folks, that's helpful. And lastly, I would say too, if you're able to get some therapy, if that's something that you need,
Yeah, I have therapy.
um, okay, I would say take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And good luck with what you do. We love you.
Thank you. I think, gosh, it's not talked enough about that, the women who have gone through this type of situation where, I'm driving, a 2007 Honda CRV, and like has his Maserati out front, and like sends his lawyer to do everything. And I'm just like going to like the free family law counseling, and I want to rip my hair out because like everything is so connected within the court system. Like, oh, okay, like the GAL said, probably she's not fit to be a mother when I have done nothing but get these children out of my womb and breastfeed them for 15 months each. And like, it's just, it's unfair. It's wrong. And I still find joy in my life, and I really do. You need to find joy in your life, but it must feel like other people's struggles with whatever you black struggles, they being fucking pulled over. I grew up in Philadelphia. I was with a lot of black friends who were pulled over. Like, fuck the police.
Joe, I'll ask
And
you this question because I know there are some other folks trying to
yeah,
get
yeah.
in,
I'm sorry.
but
Okay,
no,
yeah,
no, no, that's fine. I don't want to leave you in the raw like that. So I would say to you, I'm going to ask you this one question: do
yeah.
you see yourself as a good mother?
Oh, yes,
Do
yes,
you love yourself?
yes. I do.
Do you love your children?
Yes.
Then you have everything to be positive, to be optimistic, and to go.
Yeah.
You should be able to rest your head with your spirit clear and clean as you continue to give your children the best of yourself. That's all you can do. Don't
Yeah.
let anybody determine who you are. Don't let anybody call you out of your name. Don't let anybody stamp an identity on who you are. Least of all, your ex, but the court system,
Yeah.
nobody. Stand
But it
firm.
was akin to the handmaids, because I feel like I had these children and they like were ripped from me, and because his new wife can't have children, and now she's asking them to call her mom.
And Joe, I want to suggest to you that be careful of the language you use. Don't say rip, because rip, when you
Yep.
use language like that, what it does is it resonates with your sense of being. It brings it to that I am space where it makes it reality, right? So I want you to, when you talk about your children, when you talk about you and your situation, I want you to only focus on positive, powerful language and keep that true. If
Yeah.
you have to write it down, write it down. But that's
Yeah,
how I
but
want
we
you to
need
define
change,
yourself.
and I
Yeah,
am strong, and I am
absolutely.
going to evoke change.
I love it. I love it. Thank
Quick,
you.
quick question for the audience. Christine Bailey, are you asking Joe to connect with you or for us to connect with you? And then Michael Rivers, you should have a link in your LinkedIn inbox to join the show. Just click on that and you'll be right on. Uh, Joe, I feel for you, but I also believe that in everything that Wayne just said, um, that you are more than enough, and only only you, if you believe, will change the situation. And
Yeah.
we need to believe more than what we see. We need to believe in the unseen. We need to walk by faith, not by sight, to know that there are people out there. Christine Bailey wants you to connect with her. I don't know why, but
It's okay.
maybe.
Maybe she has similar situation.
Oh, you know her?
No, but I think I've seen her before in a podcast, but
So connect with her, because we don't know why you're here. We don't know why we chose to bring you up, but someone out there is listening to your story. And
yes,
Christine is saying, connect with me now.
I will.
So I would do that,
I will do.
because I don't know what she has to offer. I don't know Christine Bailey. I'll connect with you too, Christine. So will Wayne.
Mhm.
But what I will say is, I will keep you lifted up in prayer and in motivation, and do everything from a spiritual perspective that I can. I don't have connections in the court system or
Okay,
child and family
don't
services.
worry. I just want to like have my story out there, and I am like very, very passive, and I absolutely would never like be a violent person, but I want to evoke change, and it's not fair
Yeah.
what is happening to our country. And yes, obviously, everyone feels it from their own experiences, but I have felt it since I have been old enough to feel it. And so I have seen relatives feel it. And I want people to know that, change can happen. It can. And
It,
I will
it,
still be smiling at the other end of this.
first of all, change will happen. So let's claim that.
Yeah.
And um, this is easier said than done, but let go. Let go of some of
The
uh,
rage. The rage, I don't know if I can. The
yeah.
rage is in me. I don't
You,
know.
you need to let
I would never hurt anyone. No.
well, violence never solves anything, especially when it comes to childcare. But um, trying to find your inner peace will resonate better with you,
Yeah.
and it will show in everything that you do, and
Yeah.
and you'll receive more. Um, Michael, you were on,
Well,
and then
thank
you
you.
jumped
Thank
out.
you so much.
All right, thank you. Mike, you were on and then you fell off. So if you want to come back, I'm ready to add you to the stage. Michael. Um, Cynthia, Joanne's going to connect with you. And how are you holding up there, Wayne?
I'm great, thank you. I
Okay.
have my coconut water. I'm good.
So what are the benefits of coconut water?
Well, certainly on a day like today, it's 90 something degrees. We went running this morning in the park. And so this is helping in terms of the electrolytes and making sure that I'm not dehydrated. Um, if nothing else, that's a place to start. Plus, I don't like the taste of plain water, Bill. So the coconut water tricks me into having it.
So I'm just waiting for Michael. He's the last guy that said he wanted to come up, and he came on, but I wanted Joni to finish what she was saying, because I didn't want to just kind of interrupt and have someone else join in the middle of it. But
Chris, if I may, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Christine says forgiveness. And this is tough because when you feel like you are a target of an assault, whether it's through the system, verbally or physically, it's hard to turn around and, as it were, turn the other cheek and forgive. But as you've heard it often says, when you forgive, you're actually giving yourself an opportunity so you can move forward. Because the other person oftentimes is not, you don't condone their behavior by forgiving. You give yourself permission to move past that block and allow yourself space so you can grow and get out of the muck.
I 100% agree with you. Michael Rivers, welcome, my friend.
So what's going on?
And I can see that you are promoting Christine Bailey's book.
What? Ism. Gangsta ism. No God, no God, no peace, but no God,
No peace. So
no peace.
all right. So how are you and Christine Bailey connected?
Christine Bailey is a godsend. Christine Bailey, I discovered on the LinkedIn audio room before this new format took over. LinkedIn had the clubhouse type version with audio rooms and people joining the stage. So there was an amazing lady out of the West Coast. I think her name is Margaret Martinez. And these two women together, when they come together, they are just fire, right? They have
Mhm.
an open mind and they accept everyone. No discrimination, no nothing. I happened to be on Margaret's room one time and I heard Christine talk and I was blown away. Her compassion, her conviction, her, self love, self respect, everything. The reason why she's a topic right now for me is because just that title alone had borne witness what I was going through for 30 plus years. 30 years on a subject that your co host was talking about, on the subject that this whole conversation is talking about, not understanding me. Because when you don't understand you, there's a lot of noise everywhere else around. And understanding me, whether it's health, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whether it's financial status, some people have the idea that they can handle the world in 5 minutes. But if that open door, if that opportunity was ever given, lights is on, stage is set, they're freeze.
Yeah.
Stage fright, no plan, no planning. And when you don't plan, you're destined to be unprepared, not ill-equipped, even ill-equipped, because the downtime that we're supposed to have is a time that we're supposed to be stacking everything. So when the war starts, you're ready to go out and fight. My
So
first time,
so that brings to mind
yes.
Ayanna Van Zandt book, her first
Whew.
book, In the
Okay,
Meantime. In the
okay,
Meantime. And
okay.
have you read that book?
I haven't, but I should be getting it soon.
So Ayanna Van Zandt's In the Meantime means that right now, if you're unemployed,
Mm, okay,
you just don't sit around. You prepare for the job that you want. Right
correct.
now, if you're single, you make a side of your bed that's ready for someone to join. Right
Yes,
now, if you want to own a house, you need to, in the meantime, make sure that what you're renting is
yes,
up to par and that you're appreciative of it and all the other great stuff. And a lot of us, in the meantime, instead of preparing for God's blessing, we're
mm,
sitting there worrying about it and we're talking about it and we're dragging ourselves down. And so when our blessing comes, we're not ready for it. It goes back to that don't, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
there you go. There you go.
Um, so you are powerful and Wayne is powerful. And you
Wayne,
guys, yeah, you guys talk because I'm gonna mute myself because I bet you this is gonna be a great conversation.
Wayne, I honor you so much. I honor you
Uh,
because you were fortunate in life, whether you call God, the universe, Lord, whatever you call, time, situation, and circumstance allowed you to find your half, your companion, that person that when people don't have time and space to talk to their partner, to their companion, to their mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, colleague, coworker, you could turn to your right and say, "Hey, babe, right side. Hey,
yeah.
babe." Do you know what type of relief that is by itself?
Brother
Just
Mike,
to have a human. Oh,
it doesn't fall on deaf ears or hardened hearts when I tell you that I know how blessed I am. But I want to share that this was not happen chance, meaning I crafted, as did my wife, exactly our coming together. We met each other in college 30 years ago and went our separate ways in terms of developed different families. And when both of us fell on failed relationships, through the magic of Facebook, we reconnected.
woo! No, you
But,
did.
but here's the thing, and Bill, I have a 5:30 call that I have to jump on as well.
Oh,
No, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
So, but here's the thing that I share. When you give a list of what you don't want, what happens? You get more of it. If you
yes,
start
sir.
saying, I don't want this woman, I don't want that man, I don't want, people say the universe hears it, but it's kind of like the reticular activating system, it's part of the brain that helps us to survive. So if you saw, for example, a tiger in the woods, right?
Mm,
You're trained to see others to know that it will attack you. People
mhm,
use the excuse, my wife just changed her car. And now we're noticing that there's more cars of that type on the street than ever before.
Yeah.
I never in my life even saw that car before. I would just drive by. So this is what happens. The same is true because the brain doesn't know the difference. It doesn't differentiate, is what the psychologists are saying, teaching us, between what's real and what's imagined. And
mhm,
so if you keep saying what you don't want, you are actually, as it were, creating neurons, pathways to get more of what you don't want. So
mm,
my wife and I knew that we stood on similar values.
mhm,
We knew our sense of self and identity, who we were, how we were going to show up. And we understood that we had a greater why. And if there is an
Mm.
alignment with that as you search for the person that you want, what you are in essence doing is bringing them to you. So when Audrey came back in my life and I in hers, within the course of a year or less, actually, I had moved down. My kids are grown. You know, I was
mm,
like, they're grown. I could leave New York. They can jump on a plane and fly on their own. So I was in Florida where Audrey was.
mm.
And I got here in 2014. In 2015, we were married. There was no playing
Beautiful,
around, and we're happily
beautiful,
married because
beautiful.
you can craft your relationship by putting it out there, by, as Bill says, becoming the person you need to be
Mm,
before it gets there and
Yep.
showing up. If you want to be a king, you got to dress like a king, walk like a
right,
king, talk like a
right,
king, think like a king,
right.
and people will give you your regency. Brother
Mm,
Bill.
mm, mm.
Okay.
You're
So what I'm going
amazing.
to do right now, Mike, because we're going to stay on for a minute because I want to talk to you about next week.
Sure.
Wayne, you
Yes,
have a
sir.
hard cutoff. So let's get you to give your final thoughts and then we'll let you bow out gracefully. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation.
Love it. Thank you. I just want to say that it's all about hope. I think there's a lot of uncertainty happening right now, not just in North America, but across the entire world. And we have become a people that have lost ourselves chasing the wrong things. We are chasing the stuff that money buys and all that. Yes, it provides opportunities. But what we have lost is our true sense of who we are and how connected we are with the Creator, with the Most High. And once we connect with that, we recognize, that hope. Listen, I share this with folks who don't believe in a God or in a universe that has a creator. How many people have you met in their lifetime that have tried to have children and just couldn't get pregnant, couldn't have a child? They've tried, they've done all they should do, right? And how many people have you heard of that tried to commit suicide, but wound up wounding themselves, maybe harming themselves in a way, but they're not dead? Because there's something greater than you and I that determines life and death. We ultimately don't make that decision. We can facilitate to some extent the activity, right, that brings about certain kinds of outcomes. But again, we must change our belief system. We must apply core values. We must change our thoughts, our words, our actions, our habits, and therefore get a better result. It all becomes important to us to do this at the highest level in terms of our faith and our belief, and that fact that we're not alone and there's hope.
Fantastic. Wayne, will you come back?
I would be happy to. Appreciate you.
Amen.
Because you have dropped some knowledge. Hopefully, the people out there can feel it. It's very, very authentic, and it just comes across, man. And I am so lucky to have met you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it all the time. I think I even wrote an article about you one time. But
Wow.
well, because I think it was a gratitude article, and it
Beautiful.
I find inspiration everywhere. So when I met him, I think I just kind of whatever's on my mind, I write about. Wayne, go to your 5:30.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, Mike. Hang on. We're going to close out the show, so it won't be long, but we're going to talk about next week. I think you're going to be our guest.
Yes.
And Wayne, Audrey, you guys have a great weekend and a really great week. Wake up with gratitude every morning. Love you guys.
Love you too. Thanks so
All
much.
right, man.
Love you.
Thank you.
Weekend. Bye-bye.
Michael,
What's going on, William? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So
Wow.
you said next Sunday you want to come on. Is that correct?
Sure. If there's yes.
So next
Definitely
Sunday is not
Sunday.
planned. Next Sunday's not planned. The next Sunday is. So
Okay.
if you're committed, yes, you can come on. I would love to have you. I would love to have you and Christine Bailey if she wants to show up as well. Go ahead.
And one other, Christiana T. Johnson, and maybe maybe 2 or 3 others
So I try to
to
keep it
round
to
it out.
I kind of try to keep it to 4.
Okay.
So including me, so that we
Okay.
all have a chance to talk.
Understood. Okay.
But you and I will have a side conversation
Gotcha.
about who you want to come on. And
Okay.
you know what? This is your show. This is a platform that I
Wow.
give
Thank
to
you.
everybody to just be
Yes.
themselves.
Okay.
And I like diverse kind of topics and diverse people. And
Mhm.
perhaps what we'll do is we could make it so that you and I start the show, and then 15
Okay.
minutes in, Christine comes on, and then
Perfect.
15 minutes in, the other person comes
Perfect.
on. So everyone gets,
Perfect.
you say the whole hour, and then everyone else gets like kind of, oh, here she is, or here they are. And
Okay.
we'll make it work in whatever way
That
you want it to.
that sounds perfect. I those mm, what's happening now and the
Mhm.
season that I'm in indirectly is impacting every single one that I've been connected to along this journey. There are people all around the world that seemingly have 2 main things: social disconnection and um, ris- financial unbalance, not understanding how to make both work. What you said earlier about um, being prepared in that waiting time, my mind thinks back to 30 years ago when I thought I was ready to have a child. 30 years ago, it was a 2-year commitment that got cut down to 6 months because both of us broke our vow to each other. And when we least expected, there was that third chord on the way.
Got
So
it.
what we understood would take 2 years, round the clock, no sleep, driving until you tired, her, you know, everything else compounded. But whoever thought tradition, cultures, I speak English, she didn't. Her values, her culture, dishonor, disrespectful. It's when children come in the world and that marriage is not in place, it's
Mm.
a dishonor. I didn't understand at the time her culture. because I'm American only,
Yeah.
geographically challenged. And when you don't take time, and
It,
you,
it's how we're raised. I mean, really,
it
if we're
is,
not exposed, then we don't know what we're
you're
getting
not,
into.
and look how many people you impact on their side of the family because we didn't take time to understand the dynamics of cultures, not even understanding ourselves. But
Right.
you were about to say something because this is a oof,
So I want to save it for next week
thank
because
you, thank
one of
you.
the things that because it's called UBU Live. What one of the things I like to do with my first show, and you're
Hmm.
kind of breaking this tradition, is I normally don't have any conversation with the person about what we're going to talk about before
Oh,
we do it. And I don't. I met Wayne
okay,
like a year and a half ago,
okay,
and it was one time, but he made an impact. And a year later, I'm like, hey, you should be on my show. And he was
beautiful.
like, yeah, I'll come on. So, like, our
Okay,
conversation today was the
okay.
first real conversation we've had in a year.
Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah. And
Hey,
so when Christine comes on, which it's every Sunday at 4 o'clock, Christine, and I would expect you to be here at 3:55, 5 minutes before, well, no, Mike to be here at 3:55,
what?
five,
I'm gonna
five
beat
minutes,
you here.
5 minutes before we get 5 minutes before we go live. I'm in
Right.
on the East Coast. Where are you?
Same here, East Coast.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's 4 o'clock Eastern, uh, 3 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Pacific. I always have to remember
Okay.
that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna send you and I'm gonna create everything tonight, Mike. I'll send you the backstage link. You'll be the first person to come on at 3:55 for sound check and everything else. And
Okay.
then Christine can join when she's like maybe 10, 15 minutes in, and then whoever else that you would like to join. Or you and Christine can join at the same time. I just 4 people on stage
Hmm.
is perfect. Five or
Awesome.
six, normally a couple people don't get a chance to talk. So I want to be able to give due to them.
Okay.
So
Well, I I'm wondering if this platform will allow you to have a timer for each guest, like a countdown. If that don't exist, maybe that's a plugin that can be added.
uh you know, I don't know if it does. I will check, but usually what I do is what we just did with Wayne. Wayne
Hmm.
said, um, Wayne said, I have a 5:30 hard cut. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, let's give you your final thoughts, so that
Hmm.
when you decide to go, you've gotten to say everything that you want to say. Um, if the conversation is going well, we'll just keep it going.
Yeah.
It should be only an hour show. I've never been able to get there.
What I just recommended literally was like a microcosm for all shows that they could take advantage of. Because sometimes you can go into some rooms and one person can talk for like 30 minutes and then the other person have two or three. Having discipline and order, something that you showed me the ultimate respect, social media etiquette. When you let me know you were resting, don't get offended if I don't respond back in 5 minutes. That's huge because I've been cussed out by probably God. Why you keep that person hanging? Well, maybe it's because I was outside cutting a tree.
I told you, I told you at 11 o'clock in the afternoon I was asleep.
You were so on point with that, and that's honestly that's another topic because social media etiquette is so important, and some people do not put the two together. If you're
Yeah,
standing next to me and you're talking to me and I don't answer you, now either I go on deaf or I don't like you. Don't
but
ask
but
me again because I
but
might
hold
start
on.
yelling at you.
But hold on. So now I'm about to yell at you. But you showed up late to my show.
I sure did.
You were like, "Oh, I totally forgot about
I
this,
sure, and
bro. How
you,
did that happen?"
you
You
know
know?
why? Because social media etiquette, God blessed me to read your message right in time because there were fires that I was putting out. And you would think that a person was getting ready to take their life. They were like at the last end. And I'm like, are you serious? And then I realized, oh, false alarm. Let me get back to my normal routine because one thing I don't like is when somebody cries wolf. And when
Yeah.
somebody cries wolf, Okay, that's like a baby in a crib. What you crying for? You should know those three basics. And henceforth, what this topic is about, what Wayne was talking about, and what you talk about, financial preparedness, but mentally, how do you deal with a little person when they come in this world? Only last thing I want to say, this medal right here, I've had it for 9 months. My son is autistic, have signs of it. 30 years ago, a doctor scared me into thinking that if my fiance, who was 6 months pregnant, don't get out of the state of mind that she's in, then two things was going to happen to our child, either stillborn or permanent deformity. My mind went 12 years ahead and I got in shock. And I thought about what would happen if my child would come off a bus, short bus, with a breath like I thought the worst, and shame, fear, like, what was I doing? How did I let this happen? All it's like when Jesus was on that mountain, his whole life flashed in front of him. I thought about what would happen with me. Would I be looked at as what would my child or daughter so much? Now God saw fit to bless me with my second born, who had that, but not that severe. Another topic altogether. But the thing is, I'm so glad of his achievements. When his sister told me that he was in the Olympics, he beat everybody in track and basketball. I started crying. His sister's only 9 years old. I missed that Olympics. Supposed to be in Brooklyn. I'm here in PA. Mike, you're the dad. Why weren't you there? Everybody was waiting for me to show up. But my son showed up and showed out. Today, I vow to wear this forever because it's a permanent reminder for me 30 years ago. Life is life, period. No matter what. You
Yeah.
show up and you stand in and you be there. That's my message. But at the end of the day, I love the heck out of your bro. And I only read when we were on the show the other day with Annie, and I seen you when you said hi,
Oh,
Michael. That's why I reached out to you, not
okay.
knowing you from a I don't hey, I know you're a great guy now, but okay, stranger, how you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I'm here. So
You know,
look at what's the
that's
odds?
one of the things I like about the whole LinkedIn experience, the whole podcast
Yes.
experience. And
Yes.
just for those that don't know, we're broadcasting right now on LinkedIn, YouTube, and on Facebook. So
Wow.
we're I think it only tracks I don't think the viewer count is right because
Got you.
after I close out, it shows like 500 impressions and 500 views and 90 comments and right now
That's
it's showing
awesome.
3. So it's not um tracking all 3 platforms at the same time.
Got you.
My
Got you.
question for you, if I may ask,
hmm
is what happened 30 years ago with the child?
30 years ago, she was not allowed to live.
Okay.
She had a miscarriage.
Okay.
It took me 5 years to get over the fact that I wasn't going to be with her. Another 20 years to realize that either God lied or I did something wrong. But I had to go through a healing process. All like the pathways was different. But
Yeah.
that's another show because I can open up a great can, a lot of rabbit holes. But how much time do we have? Because I see 138 that's
Uh
already spent.
yeah, we're about to wrap up.
Okay.
What does MAC mean?
Multicultural Arts Commission
So it's not
is
it's not makeup.
no, 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 no. Multicultural. It was born out of the Caribbean Arts Foundation. My colleague and I, we made history in Atlantic City by bringing 15 million people to one website in one day when our press release was released. We put on the
What?
first, yeah, we put on the first ever Caribbean festival in Atlantic City on a world famous boardwalk. We did
Okay.
that without no corporate sponsor, without no financial backing, just the pennies out of our pocket. But just because my colleague believed in the unity of humanity,
Yep.
he sat on that vision for 10 years. And when he was introduced to me, he said, I want you to introduce this to the commander in chief. 10 years, he didn't want nobody else to steal it. When he heard how I communicated, he liked my disposition. He believed that I was genuine. 2 weeks, we were in the mayor's office. 15 seconds later, he said, what do you want? He gave us the whole boardwalk. and Bader Field.
There you go.
104 148 acres in Atlantic City. And my friend that introduced me to Keith, he was like, "No, stop being greedy. You don't need that." I said, "You tripping?" I said, "We got a crowd, from Brooklyn, New York. They bring 2, 3, 4 million people every year to their Labor Day parade. Our event was exactly 1 week after theirs. The goal was to bring Brooklyn down to Atlantic City to close out the Caribbean theme up in the Northeast before
Nice.
it goes on to Florida. We were successful with it. We just didn't have my event. Mine was a multi-genre festival, 4 music stages pointing in different directions, playing different themes. That's what I had the honor of bringing.
Nice.
Unfortunately, my team excluded me from all of the meetings, the business meetings. I didn't know what we needed. And if they would have told me, I would have brought plenty of sponsors to the table because they had groups and security, all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, what didn't happen in Atlantic City, the following year, Philadelphia made it happen. They just reversed the roles where it was supposed to be at. They surnamed it Made in America.
Nice.
2011, it was born in Atlantic City, but it materialized in Philadelphia. And from my knowledge, one of the entertainment attorneys had shared with me that my template gave birth to these other multi-genre festivals that happen all throughout the world.
So you didn't get recognized or rewarded or
I stayed in the background. I'm very humble, but I didn't
okay.
understand the whole. I just found that out earlier this year, actually. When the lawyer had no, last year when he was vetting me, he asked me 2 questions about my claim that I made, and that second question, he said, "You know what?" He said, "You're a wise man." He said, "A certain I don't know if I could even say the big event that happens in Texas every year, but yeah, South by Southwest, Coachella.
Okay.
There's a Made in America on the West Coast in Los Angeles. All of those things were basically a macrocosm for the microcosm that I started. And at the end of the day, that attorney, very credible, very, very credible. And if I say his name, I mean, your impression is going to go through the roof. So I have to learn to stop name dropping
Yeah.
because the wrong, like, who he think he is.
Well, also if you're in litigation for anything, you don't want to talk about it
No,
anyway.
yeah, no,
So
no,
so let's
yeah,
respect that privacy so that
definitely,
you don't say something wrong and then all of a sudden they're like, ah, he's in breach.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
no, yeah,
I'm very, very excited to have you,
thank you,
Christine, um, and whoever else you want on the show next Sunday. I
okay,
will I will wait for you to give me your guest list
sure,
and we will do the show around you and
please,
what you want to talk about
thank
and
you,
we'll make it just, one
thank
hell of
you,
a show.
thank you, William. You're
All right.
amazing. I'm
I
so
think
honored.
so. Kenneth,
And I
no one else does, but I believe I'm fantastic.
and you brought up the I am statement. I put
Yes.
something in our link. I am, and it's a recording that I had shared with my then 6 and 8 year old. I am, and the importance of it. It's in the link. I don't want to, spoil it, but
Okay.
in this chat, I think you're going to appreciate what you hear.
I also have an Audible, and
Okay.
there is a book that I used to go to sleep with called I Am,
Mm,
and it really was just like it. I believe in the power of suggestion. I believe that you need to put things on even while you're going to sleep that
yes.
remind you of all the things that you need to edify your experience. And there's two things that I do now. One is based on Wayne,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other is my own. I make sure
Mm,
that when I go to sleep, I go
mm-hmm.
to sleep with something that is spiritually aligned with where
Mm,
I want to be.
mm,
And then
mm,
the
mm,
other thing that I do is when I wake up, I turn on YouTube and I either
mm-hmm. Mm,
listen to some type of meditation,
mm,
affirmation.
mm-hmm.
Hey, Bruno, stop. I have a dog that resource guards,
Mm,
and another one
mm,
who's 16 years old, and he's
mm,
growling. I'm sorry about that. Um, I wake up to, before I turn on the news or anything, I make
mhm,
sure what I go to sleep with
mhm,
is something that is spiritually uplifting, and what I wake
mm,
up to is something that is calm. And when I say
mm,
wake up, it means like when you woke me up this morning.
mhm.
Like I wake up and I turn it on, and then I shut my eyes and go back to sleep.
Amen.
You
Right,
know, so I wake up
right.
maybe 30 minutes before I'm supposed to actually get out of bed,
That's amazing.
and then listen to it and drift back off. But you're still taking it in.
We are kin in spirit and in mind. When my little ones are with me, I had a habit of playing the book of Proverbs on repeat in my Wi-Fi boom system. So you hear the deep tone and scriptures throughout the night. Some people don't know how to put their children to bed when it's time.
Yep.
Soon as that word come on, they're out. And that word is just meditating, and you'll see a difference when they wake up.
You know that
Peaceful, not
that, that
yelling.
hold on before I let you go. Because I'm not really that into gospel music, but
Hmm.
there's this one song by CC Winans that I used, whenever I was down, I would play it
Mm,
over and over and over again. And let
please
me
don't let it
see.
be pray.
No.
Okay.
It wasn't. It is. I can't believe it's not coming up right away. Um,
Mm-mm-mm. CC Winans, powerful.
yeah, it was. Hmm. I'll send it to you. It's like
Okay.
it's about being a warrior or something like that.
Mm, can't wait to hear it.
Oh, waging war.
Waging war. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Waging war.
this is gonna take us out.
All right. I can't hear it though.
Oh, you can't?
Uh,
You can't hear anything?
it's faint. Okay.
So I
Oh,
would
that's better.
I would
Okay.
listen to it like all the time when I was going through like my darkest, because it it's a very, very powerful song,
Gotcha.
and
Waging
it's
war.
talking about waging war against anything that is built to hold you back.
Mm, mm, mm.
And it's aligned with the scripture, no weapon formed against me shall prosper.
Okay,
That
now
that type
that's
of
my
mentality.
language. That's my language.
Yeah. So it's just a great song, and
You're
I would just like
powerful.
repeat. So
Hmm.
when you get a chance,
Yes.
go to CC Winans Waging War, drop it in my message box about what you thought about the song.
A
Um,
review. Awesome.
yeah, it's a
Awesome.
bopper, and then we'll talk about it
Awesome.
next week.
You got it.
Ladies and
Appreciate you.
gentlemen, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please hit the notification buttons. Please be here next Sunday at 4 o'clock to see me and Mike and Cynthia and whoever else
Christine.
Mike decides to surprise us with. If it was anything like today's show with Wayne, you will leave feeling the force. You will leave
Wayne is.
believing that you can do anything that you can
Mm,
do, that you want to
amen.
do. And you will understand your purpose, because I am great. I am strong.
Uh,
I am confident. I am secure. I am motivated. I am motivational. I am inspired, and I am inspirational. So
amen.
you are too. Mike, I love you, man. You
Love
have
you
a
too.
great week, and I'll talk to you
Amen.
next Sunday. Do not
Yes, sir.
forget, don't stand me up. I don't care about no fires. If I go live and I'm the only person on here,
Oh no, won't
I'm
happen.
flying to Philadelphia.
I'll promise you, I'll be here.
All right,
Meet
man.
you.
Have a good week.
Thank
Bye,
you. You
Cynthia. Thank
too.
you very much. Bye, Kenneth. Bye,
Christine.
everyone that
All
joined.
right.
Oh, Christine. Sorry.
Christine
Bye,
Bellinger.
Christine.
All
And
right.
bye, Curtis. Goodbye.
God bless you, Curtis. All right. Peace.